By the way, don't travel with peanut butter. We had known that there is absolutely no peanut butter and no real chocolate in Mongolia. So we thought, this little stash won't hurt. Guess what, guys? Even things that we count dear have to be surrendered sometimes. You know, the dearest thing to me at that point was my reputation. Young men, do you find it more important to be cool than to be under the authority of your parents? Wait a minute, what if my friends see me? I'm with my little siblings, my brothers and sisters. They're not cool. Get lost, kid. I don't know you. Go back home where you belong. How often do we harm our relationships that are the dearest to us, that last far longer than those friendships with friends, just because we want a reputation? You see, it's so important that we're willing to surrender everything for Jesus Christ. Oh, it looked weird. Oh, we were weird in that airport. Everybody looked at us funny. They're like, what are you doing? Well, we're moving to Mongolia. These guys lived in tents for over 400 years. Finally, we settled into our home there in Mongolia, a very rustic apartment there it's built by the Russians. They turn the water one time on a year. They turn it off. They turn the heat on one time a year. They turn it off. You guys know what we're talking about, right? Same people that built your country build ours. Oh my, it's different. If you want it a little cooler in the apartment, you open the windows. If you want it a little warmer, you put on a coat. You don't get a lot of those flexible things. We lived in those Russian apartments. You always look out through the peephole before you walk out the door, lest you hit the drunk guy that's laying in the stairwell. You don't want to hit him in the head in the middle of the night. You might start a fight. Life was different in Mongolia. Over 75% of the population lives in the capital city of Ulaanbaatar. 70% of those people live in tents, like the Rechabites. You see, we become so focused on what we have, and especially on what we don't have. Do you see that new cell phone that came out? How about that new iPad? Oh, did you know that the PC, the Windows, Microsoft actually came out with a new one? Oh, you see, the things of this earth just draw our attention until we can no longer love God with all our heart and soul and mind and strength. Other things, consumer mind, like sports, like music, all sorts of things. We settled into Mongolia, had a powerful time beginning to work in churches and hospitals, in government organizations, teaching character. It was a phenomenal opportunity to make an impact. We enjoyed it immensely. Things were going great. We felt like settling in. You ever feel like just settling in? Hey, God's using me. This is comfortable to some extent. Little do we know what was to happen next. It would change our lives forever. You see, it was my birthday. We went out on a hike. A very fun thing to do for a young man. Hiking up a mountain, we had a nice picnic lunch. Wanting to hike up to the next peak, I said, hey, Dad, do you mind? He's like, sure, let's go. I looked over at my brother. He dropped his head. He said, I think I need to stay here. I said, what's going on? He said, my foot, my ankle. There's so much pain. I don't even know what I did. I didn't twist it. I didn't do anything funny. I said, Isaac, what's going on? He said, I just need to stay here. Day after day, it seemed to get worse. Finally, after a couple days, we went to the hospital. Medical technology there is very rustic. They did their best they could, but couldn't seem to find anything. They did blood tests. They did MRIs. They did all sorts of things to the best of their ability. Could not figure out what was going on with his ankle. October 31st rolled around. We had a special dinner as a family, talking about Daniel. As growing up, we always were wanting to do this Halloween thing. Our parents said, no, we want to be different. We want to stand alone. You know, Daniel in the Bible stood alone. Let's have a Daniel dinner. So we got to try all these exotic fruits and nuts and anything that wasn't meat. It was fun. It was one of those things because we don't want to eat the king's meat, you know. It's really a special tradition. There in Mongolia, there's a lot more exotic things. We gathered there, and little did we know that was the last dinner we would ever have together as a family like that. We carried my brother in. He was very weak, very tired, didn't know exactly what was going on. But as we gathered there together as a family, we're like, let's just snap a picture. The candles were lit, the lights were out. In that dim evening, we drank it in, the family fellowship. Went to bed like never, just always before. 3 or 4 in the morning, I felt my bed shaking. David. Woke up. Isaac, what's wrong? David, I've got this bloody nose and I can't get it to stop. It's been going for 2.5 hours. I said, Isaac, what can I do? I slipped out of my bed, dropped down, checked his pulse, checked his blood pressure, checked some of the other vital signs. Everything seemed just a little bit weak and thready. I said, I'll be right back. Slipped out, got Mom. Mom's like, this is not good. I don't know what it is, but we need to call that. Did you meet a doctor the other day? I called the doctor I'd met. After only being there 4 months, I had some broken Mongolian. I said, Be imekerite. I need a doctor now. Quickly, that Korean man who spoke Mongolian came over to our bedside. 5 in the morning was finally he arrived, came up. He said, something's bad, something's wrong. I don't know what it is. I need him in my office as soon as it's open. It'll be open at 6. Things aren't there for the convenience of the people. We rushed him into the hospital with a taxi cab since they don't have a lot of emergency services. Brought him up those 3, 4 flights of stairs by a chair, carrying him up. Walked him into the hospital room. Doctor drew 2 tubes of blood. He said, I'll have the results back to you when the lab is finished at 4 o'clock this afternoon. 4 o'clock. Okay. Brought him back home, tried to get him his rest as good as we could. 4 o'clock, the phone rang. He said something I'll never forget. He said, the test results can't be right. If they were true, your brother would not be alive. I'm going to call you back in a few minutes. I'm going to personally test another tube of blood that we drew 2 tubes. I'll test the other tube. But you might want to think about a life evacuation service. We could hardly believe our ears. What was this happening? Hey, this is my brother. Oh, we tried to deny it. Oh, it can't be that bad. But let's just check it out just in case. We turned, called up the life evacuation service. They said, oh, our plane is broken. It's been broken for a month. There's no hope of getting out of here. We called up the local airport. They said, our next flight is leaving at 6 p.m. And it's to Seoul, Korea. Next one after that is 11:30 p.m. to Beijing, China. Doctor called back, 5 o'clock. He said, the results are confirmed. His blood is incredibly overcome with leukemia. It's of the rarest type. You need to evacuate him immediately. We quickly called our taxi friend, raced down the stairs, little knowing what was ahead. We had no tickets, nothing. All we knew was that the airport was an hour away and the flight left in about 55 minutes. We jumped in that taxi. My dad and my brother jumped in the other taxi with a translator, rushed off to the ticket office. We jumped in the other taxi and tore off towards the airport. I remember getting in the taxi and telling our driver, Bata, taon sak angatsion. He said, you're a foreigner. Yeah, zorgen sak, see? Taon sak. It's like, no, it's impossible. Aguiste. Forget it. He said, taon sak both. He said, okay. I have never been on a ride like that since or before. That guy was crazy. He just put the pedal to the metal, jumping sidewalks, steering through the dead of traffic at 5 p.m. in the afternoon. This is terrible rush hour. It usually takes at least 2 hours to get anywhere about that time, much less the airport. We were going up highways on the wrong side of the highway with semis veering off into the side, going off into the dirt and gravel. This guy was insane. But I said, my brother's sick. He's really sick. Can you please, Bata, Bata, can you please get us there at 5 o'clock? Just a couple seconds, couple minutes before the flight was about ready to take off, we pulled up to the airport. I didn't have anything else to do, but I just jumped out of that taxi, ran, burst through the security lines. Buzzers are screaming, and guards were coming over, like, what are you doing? I ran up to the ticket guy right at the gate there, near the gate, and I said, I have got to get my brother on the flight. Would you please hold the flight? Would you please hold the flight? There's a medical emergency. He said, where's your tickets? I said, there is no tickets. I need to get him on the flight. He's out in the car. Don't let that flight leave. He said, well, sir, no tickets, no travel. I said, sir, no travel, no brother. Get that guy on the flight, please. Airport personnel were all coming around saying, what's going on? I finally said, can I speak with your manager? Manager came to the front. They held the plane. They said, what are you doing, crazy man? I said, sir, I have got to have my brother on the flight. It's a medical emergency. He said, where's your tickets? I said, we've got no tickets. He said, no tickets, no travel. I said, no tickets, no travel, no brother. Please, would you get me on that flight? Just a few minutes after that, my dad pulled up. He said, here. The guy wouldn't give us any tickets, but here's all the money we've got. We had pulled all the money from our safe. We had mounds of this national dollar, tugrug. Their biggest bill was worth about $8.50. So we had mounds of it for 3 tickets, my mom, my dad, and my brother. We counted it all up. He said, you're still $200 short. What are you going to do? I said, get him on the flight. He said, what do you have? I flopped my passport on the counter. He said, hey, it's good enough. It's $400 in the black market. Go for it. Got him on the flight. He said, get me my $200 by tonight or you'll have your passports no more. I said, I'll have it to you. Gave me the address. I just remember seeing my brother wheeled on that aircraft. Oh, it was incredible. It was one of those things that just totally changed my life. My brother leaned down on him and said, I'll see you later. Little did we know what that meant. You see, my brother and my mom and dad made it on that flight. We returned to teach our English lessons. We were teaching there. My brother, meanwhile, was on the flight with mom and dad. Mom and dad looked down at him and he said, Isaac, are you okay? He said, Mom and Dad, I love you. Mom and Dad, thank you. Thank you for choosing a different mindset. Thank you for choosing to take away these distractions of television, of fiction books, of sports, of all these good things that can weigh us down. Thank you for taking those from us. And then I began to give instructions to my younger siblings. And before he could even finish, his speech became garbled. And he had a massive brain hemorrhage and passed away in the air. I remember so clearly that night. It was 2 a.m. We got a phone call. It's my dad. I remember jumping out of bed, but Derek beat us to the phone. Derek said, hello? His groggy mind, he couldn't quite figure out what was going on. Dad said, Derek, your brother Isaac went home to be with Jesus tonight. He met the Lord in the air. I remember just stunned, thinking, God, where are you now? God, is this real? What's happening? That thought came back to me. Are you willing to give your life for Jesus Christ? What if you're next? All these thoughts were racing through my mind just as fast as the tears were streaming down my cheeks. I realized life was over. Life would be different. Life would never be the same for our family. Not just because my brother was gone, but because I realized he is no fool who gives what he cannot keep to gain what he cannot lose. Investment in eternity is the answer. My brother and I, my sisters,